Now the saloon used to have the traditional doors like this, but too many of my friends would try to be funny and bust through them, and they kept breaking off. So I had to connect them together. But at least I put this cowbell on here so I can hear them coming and they can make just as much noise as they did when they were separate doors. I'll just start explaining my shop here. So the shop is a dream that I've had for a long time, and I finished building it in 2017. And it has been not just a great resource for myself, but we've been able to integrate it with our community. So people will come out and use it for like a baby shower. We have an annual bluegrass show here each year. We've had it for birthday parties. It's sometimes nice if people need to paint a bunch of signs for some good cause. We'll let people come over and paint signs. And honestly, it's a place where I just want to be all the time, regardless. So it's you can call it a man cave, you can call it like a little local community center, but it's not a full-fledged wood shop or a full-fledged metal shop. It's just a hobby shop. And we use it for pretty much everything. I can't imagine not having it. So I milled up all the lumber for this entrance that converted it from looking like a generic building to an actual welcoming, cool shop. So come on in. It's technically a carport building, so it was definitely within my budget as a young man, and I added some insulation, and I like that it's a clear span, and then I added this loft. This is a big cherry post that I milled. And the back wall is all tulip poplar. And there's some walnut highlights there. And I believe the term for slabs that are unfolded like that is called slip matching. So they're slip matched off the same log. Yeah, I milled it was a big log.
Yeah.
It was I believe that poplar log was about 28 inches in diameter, and I milled those pieces at 5/8 or 3/4 of an inch thick. I'm pretty sure that's one log. So my sawmill right outside here is where I'll mill the lumber on the sawmill, take it to my dry storage, let it dry there for a year for each inch of thickness of the lumber, and then move it to my makeshift kiln to bring it down to an atmosphere, to a 7 to 8% level. Then I'll bring it in here and I'll work with it. And I've built probably 40, 50 tables out here. I built all the tables for a local brewery a couple years ago. I've built countless personal projects, like a camper. I've built more than one camper in here, definitely. I've finished a school bus conversion in here, all with cedar on the inside that came off the mill. So it's a great workspace. Yeah, back in the mid-90s when I worked with the Mennonites, they didn't have mills like this, openly advertised all over the place. They had the back of Popular Mechanics. There was a little tiny ad for bandsaw mill, and it was kind of a one-off idea. And we had that first mill that was advertised in the back of the Popular Mechanics magazine. And it was really neat to use. The place that I worked was along the Appalachian Trail, and they would tag locust trees with paint, and they'd send me, this 13-year-old kid, 90 pounds wet, up there with this Farm Boss steel chainsaw, and I'd cut down these trees. Well, they would have already cut the trees down. I would cut them into 8-foot sections and drag them down with this Massey tractor. Before Massey and Ferguson got together, it was just the Massey. So I'd go up there with the Massey, and occasionally you'd see these hikers that were on the Appalachian Trail that would come down to there was a spring to fill their water up, and they would just see some 13-year-old kid on this big tractor and this chainsaw that's almost as big as he was, pulling these logs. You know, I'm a talker, so I would always like make up these crazy tales like, oh, I live down here in a shed, I just like it. And he would just be blown away. Here's your Appalachian experience. But yeah, I would drag the logs down, put them next to the mill, sit on them all day with a draw blade just like this. And I would just sit and I would pull the bark off of them, roll them, pull the bark off of them, fighting off the carpenter ants that were in the ground, winch them with a boat winch up onto the mill, square them up, dig the post, and we did like a 32 post pole barn in a matter of a few weeks, me and 2 other Mennonites. And I'm not Mennonite, I'm just your run-of-the-mill Appalachian dude, but they like to preserve and save every little thing. So the barn that we took down to build the new barn, almost every nail I saved out of it. It teaches you a lot. Yeah. Valuable lessons, hard work, but the mill is what I always remember. I got older, I always look back and remember the mill. So when I saw this one pop up at a reasonable price that I think I saved up for it, I'm so happy I did. So yeah, it's been a favorite tool for sure.
The retro was the incident that made me realize I need one, I should have one. And then came the saving up process. But I always knew about them because I had worked on one growing up. I don't remember exactly how I found Woodland Mills, but I'm fairly certain that it was through YouTube. And I don't think that there was a lot of people using them. I think maybe there's one gentleman who also has a Mahindra tractor. I can't remember his username off the top of my head. I think it was the price point and it was the advertising. It was straightforward. It was exactly as I expected. There wasn't anything out of the ordinary. It was the type of mill that I'd grown up using in physical form that was less expensive and more affordable. And I knew I wasn't gonna need to use it all the time. So for me, it was within my budget. It was just the right mill for me. And I would never change any of the steps I've taken as far as operating a sawmill. I would get the same mill over again, maybe hold out for a few months to get to HM130 max. But honestly, my tractor is limited with its loader for how heavy of a log I can move. So this mill is perfect, which is matched with the tractor, which is matched with my kiln. So it's all coordinated. You go bigger with one thing, you gotta, the other thing, everything else has to change. I said yesterday, whenever I look at or make a list of life goals, 5-year plans, it always culminates with run the mill, because that's where I want to be. I want to be out here running the mill. I have at least 2 friends within 5 miles of me who have bought Woodland Mills mills.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of my buddies, Ray, we will trade lumber sometimes. He's really into cherry, and I pass on it usually just because I don't have a need for that type of wood. I do have a cherry table that I built for us in the house, but I like walnut. And I'll trade him walnut. And there's another gentleman who comes up here from Richmond sometimes, and we'll trade cedar for some smaller walnut. But for me, my operation, I have several rules with my milling operation. I don't source lumber that I can't drive my tractor to pick up. And unless it's been cut down for a reason to protect another tree or for some greater good gardening situation, I'm not interested in it. So I see trees that get cut down because they've been knocked over by a storm, I'll go grab it. Or if I see a tree that was cut down because it was, about to fall over on top of another tree, then I'll go grab it. So I haven't intentionally gone and cutting down any beautiful, healthy trees to mill. And I have plenty of logs, so I don't think I'm ever going to need to do that. I have milled routinely the maximum size log that this mill can handle. I mean, I have been hard on it. I really have, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on camera. Like I feel bad now looking back on some of the things I've put this mill through. Like a 28-inch hickory log, I mean, you get sparks off of it as soon as you go into it with a new blade sometimes. You're like, ugh. But I mean, it keeps on chugging. So it's built well. A really pretty log. Blades cutting perfectly level. I'm happy with that cut. Very happy. So I was fortunate enough to buy this property during the recession. I was just out of college and all my friends were buying fancy cars, and I sold my old truck for an even cheaper Jeep Cherokee so I could afford to buy this house that I remembered passing on the school bus as a kid. And it needed a lot of work, and my mother had recently passed, so part of my grieving process was working on the house, fixing it up. I didn't even think about the surrounding property. I knew it was a nice piece of land, but I just focused on the house. And once I started getting that knocked out, I started to explore the land, and I realized that this spot right here, there were no trees that needed cut down. It was nice and level, and it was far enough away from the house to where it would be a good work-life balance. So I had the shop constructed in 2017. I took a loan out of my retirement fund at my job, because when you're in your late 20s, you don't think about retiring. I just knew that I wanted to shop, and it was the best decision I ever made. Fast forward to 2020, during COVID, I was laid off from my job, and I was able to spend a lot more time out here, and I was able to spend more time on the mill. And then I decided to build my treehouse, which was a long-term goal of mine. I didn't know if I would ever actually get to it, but I just jumped in. I started building the treehouse, not knowing what the outcome would be. Knowing I was probably going to lose my job, I decided to get a CDL license. So I went through a whole process of getting a CDL. And at the same time, I'm building the treehouse, thinking maybe it will be a hit on Airbnb. And sure enough, it was. So I don't have to be a CDL truck driver. I can stay at home for the most part, run the mill, host people at the treehouse, and have a good plethora of things that I do to keep myself occupied and satisfied, fulfilled in life. We had a pony who was in her early 30s, who's no longer with us, but we converted her shed into a saloon, and it's been a big hit. And we don't use it as much as we used to because we have a 1-year-old baby, but Sabrina and I will sneak out here sometimes and have a drink and play some darts because our baby camera just reaches just barely out here. So it was like, I mean, that's meant to be, right? This is where I air dry my lumber. I built this floor here, so it's easy for me to keep lumber off the ground and also keep the surface nice and level. This is a poplar log, and as you can see, I'm moving this massive stack of walnut slabs pretty easily. I'll come out here and I'll turn it and move it around so that this fan that I keep running all year round, this fan's running, and it helps dry out the lumber. But I could bring the tractor in and pick up this stack and move it around. These slabs right here are massive. That's a 20-inch slab. So 2 of these book matched makes a beautiful table. So I have enough slabs here, 2, 4, 6. I could do probably 4 tables with this. That'd keep me busy for half the year as a side project. But I'll show you the saloon. Careful stepping down here. On the back of the lumber on the back of this building here came from a pool deck that we had growing up that my mom had built for us as kids, and it really means a lot to repurpose it here because she's no longer with us. But I try to have pieces of lumber that she had a connection to, used in whatever projects I do now still. Now the saloon used to have the traditional doors like this, but too many of my friends would try to be funny and bust through them, and they kept breaking off. So I had to connect them together. But at least I put this cowbell on here so I can hear them coming and they can make just as much noise as they did when they were separate doors. So come on in. The saloon's got a white oak floor that we milled on a circle mill that my neighbor had growing up. And guests can hit one switch and turns everything on. And we dedicated it to Dale Earnhardt because some of my friends have parents that have given me a bunch of Dale Earnhardt stuff over the years. So I'll say, I guess we're gonna have a Dale Earnhardt saloon. It's rough and rugged, the way a saloon should be. The bar top is ash, and it came off of our property. Here's some moonshine. Now, one's stronger than the other. The only way to really tell is to take a sip of it. If you come out here in the wintertime and you're cold, if you take a sip of the moonshine and you feel it in your toes in the first 3 or 4 minutes, then it's doing the job. But yeah, this is the Saloon. It's not much, but there's been some good times in here. There's been at least, there's been up to 30, 40 people in this general area here. Then I cut this down to make a game room in here for darts and just hanging out. We have a nighttime routine for our 1-year-old where we walk her outside to calm her down, get her ready for bedtime. And we walk into the Saloon, say hi to Dale. She loves to sit on the tractor. Her first word is tractor, tractor. So anything that has tires is now a tractor. And she will jump out of my arms almost to get towards the tractor. She knows how to do the bucket. She's not quite strong enough to tilt the bucket, but she can hoist it up and down. She knows how to move it that way. And she has to hit this switch whenever she comes in. So that's her job. So you're safer down here because there's no nut trees. There's still the possibility of something bouncing towards you, but you're in the clear. This is a Chinese chestnut tree. This is a really rare tree. Sabrina will talk about it, but this is a special tree here. And that's a standing dead ash still. I try to let if they're not threatening anything, I try to let the dead trees stand because they are habitat for certain things. So that tree's alive, or not alive, it's standing dead. Been dead for 5 years now at least. Yeah, this is what we call the holler in the holler, because we already live in a holler, and then this is a holler in the holler. So the holler is down here. The treehouse is positioned between a hickory nut and a red oak. Now this particular spot on my property, from when I first moved here over 10 years ago, I saw these 2 trees and I knew this was something special. And I wanted to build something here without taking away from the rocks themselves or blocking anything. And I thought maybe a treehouse would be perfect. It ended up being bigger than I imagined, but that's fine. But the treehouse itself is roughly 168 square feet on the inside, and it's attached to the trees in the front and on posts in the back. So it's not completely supported by the trees, but it still qualifies as a treehouse, I think. The interesting thing about building the treehouse is how many artifacts I've found here in front of this rock face. And this is about a 6-foot rock face here. And we found parts of an old wood stove and some old copper piping up in here also. And one of my neighbors said that he believes there was a moonshine still here. And because we're so close to the encampments that were held before the Battle of Antietam, there's a good chance that there were soldiers camping around here, and maybe there was a moonshine still. The treehouse has been here for 5 years. I only had to drill 1 hole in each tree, and the tree is already compartmentalized around the area that I drilled into, so the trees have healed fully. And they are slider brackets, so as the tree grows, the bracket that is holding the front beam of the treehouse foundation on can be slid back. So all I have to do is loosen some hurricane brackets that attach the floor joists of the treehouse to this front beam, and then tap with a sledgehammer that beam back, maybe a quarter of an inch every few years. And it's definitely overbuilt. I didn't want any limbs coming off the top and crashing through the ceiling, so I did 2x8s, 1 foot on center for the roof, and then I did a 3/4 inch decking, and then I did the metal on top of that. So the treehouse is really built to withstand any type of limb that would come down, but it's high enough in the tree, but not too high, so that the bigger limbs wouldn't be a big hindrance, I don't think. So I milled all the finished wood, the cedar siding, the interior furniture, and a lot more with the sawmill. It was awesome. I could come right off the sawmill, right over to here. It was great. I love school buses so much that when I was in kindergarten, I climbed under a school bus to try to see how it worked. I was so curious, like, let me see the tires, I want to see the drive shaft, and I got kicked off the bus because of that. So I didn't get to ride the bus for the rest of the year in kindergarten. But my mom has a photo of me in the school bus door when I first started school. And if you would have told me at that age, or any age before college, that I would eventually write a book on school bus conversions that would subsequently pay off my student loans, I'd be like, you're full of it. You're full of it. So our truck camper is my most recent big project. I found a used flatbed from an F-250 and I fixed it onto the Tundra. And then I wanted the extra space for our newborn, so I cantilevered the camper off the back, and I designed it so that my tractor can come in with the pallets and pick it up and take it off when I need. But we're in the camping season, and it is a 4-season camper, but we love to camp in the fall, so it's staying on the truck for now. But I'll show you the inside. It is skinned in aluminum on the exterior, and the interior has cedar of Lebanon ceiling joists, and those are all milled here at home. Nice lightweight, strong wood. It's got a great aroma.
It smells so good.
Yeah, we have a little TV in there. This is a propane heater. I set up there's a battery out of a remote. Yeah, and I have a 30-gallon water tank, and it's all powered from a portable power pack that I could take in and out, and it's charged by the house, the truck, or a 400-watt solar panel.
Wow.
And in optimum conditions, I could power the air conditioner with the solar power.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool. It really works well. We've had 3 iterations of truck campers. The first one was way too heavy and tall and awkward. The next one was great, but we had a baby and we needed more space. And then this one is more fancy looking.
Yeah.
People ask me, where'd you buy this? And I'm like, no, I built it. And they don't believe me. So maybe that's a good thing. It looks professionally built. I bought this bus in 2014, and I had it on Airbnb within 6 months. I didn't even know what Airbnb was, but someone kept pestering me saying, you should put that bus on Airbnb. So finally I gave it a shot, and it booked immediately. So I was like, I guess I won't be driving it anymore. So I parked it, and it's been parked here since 2015.
So is this, what bus number is this for?
Number 1. This is
number 1.
This is the first bus, yeah. And because it was immediately so popular on Airbnb, I still wanted my own bus. And then around the same time I met Sabrina, so she and I decided to get a short bus that she could drive also, because she didn't want to drive such a big vehicle. So there was a bar in town that had the drunk bus that would pick people up, drop them off, and they decided to sell it because there were so many disputes on the bus at night after everybody was, way too tuned in. So they decided to sell the bus, and Sabrina and I bought it, converted it, drove it to California and back, took it to all kinds of music festivals, had the best time in it. And then we decided to get one slightly bigger and newer. So we sold bus number 2 to a teacher friend of ours, and she continued driving it. I think she took it back to California again. And then we got a 2004 Chevy bus with the diesel motor, a Duramax motor, and we took our time fixing that one up because I decided to write the book around the same time that I was working on that bus. And we decided to get a 4th bus to feature exclusively from start to finish in the book bus. In the book, sorry, we called it the book bus.
Right.
So we finished the book bus number 4 before we finished number 3. Then we ended up finishing number 3 after number 4 was done. So there's 4 buses right there. We sold the book bus to a family from Canada. Actually, they were from France, but they were living in Canada, and they were planning to tour the United States and do like a couple years of travel and education at the same time with their 2 kids. So we sold them the book bus, and that funding went to pay off the remaining balance of my student loans. And then we finished our personal bus that we drove to Zion and took on our book tour. We got engaged when we were on that trip in that bus. It was a fantastic bus, and we sold it during COVID to this couple in Chicago. And then we decided to get another short bus that I finished in about 1.5 years, and I sold it to a gentleman in West Virginia, about 3 hours from here, who still has it today. He always sends me pictures, he loves it. So I've built 5 buses. We've driven the 5th one that I built that I sold to the gentleman east of us. We did take that one to Nova Scotia. It was fun, we love that bus. But we wanted to have something that could go more off-road, go in the snow, less a risk if we got stuck somewhere. So that's when we decided to build the truck campers. And we've been very happy with the truck campers since. That's awesome. So that's the long story, a short version of a long story of different campers. But the issue is I like to build them. Yeah. That's the issue. I don't know if that's an issue. It just keeps us having new ones. As long as my wife says, as long as you could sell them for a little bit of a profit, have at it. Yeah. It's been a great turn of events to jump on this piece of property when I did, and then to not only bring it to its full potential, but also share it with both friends, family, and strangers through Airbnb in a way that brings me fulfillment and doesn't, try to set the priority of making money. It's all about sharing the fun values that West Virginia has to offer, and I think for me that's the most important part of being out here.
That's awesome.
So,
That's great.
hope that's not too corny.